Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And there is a level of professionalism that is delivered by the people at Traver Connect that is unparalleled in our industry. And it is a great honor to welcome the CEO, John Traver, back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. John, welcome to the conference.
Ted, thank you. And yes, you're right. The team at Traver Connect, I'm proud to run with this group. Special people doing special work. So thanks for continuing to pioneer this Fixed Ops Roundtable. I hope for you, has gone even farther than you expected. I love doing these events with you.
John, you know it has, and Fixed Ops has really as you know, become the focal point in our industry, service, parts, and body shop. And there's so much happening, and there are so many happenings coming in the near term as well, that it's an exciting place to be as well. And I'm so happy that you're steering the ship with me here. So I appreciate your great support and friendship as well.
Likewise, Ted. Thank you.
All right, so here we are. It is the May the 4th event. I think Tully did a fantastic job this morning in kicking us off, and I can't wait to see what you've got for us today.
I can't believe we're 4.5 months into 2022. Tully with boom and pow and just laying the John Madden stuff. The only thing I was hoping to hear was a little Brett Favre, a little Brett Favre, but maybe next time. Thanks for leading us so well, Tully. Well, Ted, Fixed Ops Roundtable for May. We are fired up about May the 4th be with you. Great theme, and we hope the same for everyone watching today. So as I got to thinking about the principles of business development, what I love about business development is maybe similar to what you love about it, and that is the fact that it implies growth. We all love growth. We love seeing the business grow, the people in the business grow, the market grow, our impact with our customers grow. And when you look at the publicly traded companies, like the stalwarts, like I think of Berkshire Hathaway, I think of this guy who we all know who this is, Warren Buffett, chairman, and over Berkshire. This stock is over $400,000 a share today, for those that don't know that. Now, Warren does a very simple, conventional approach in his letter to shareholders as he and the executive team writes it each year. And for those that don't know, letter to shareholders is an obligation of a public company, and it speaks to a handful of things that I feel are kind of business development-esque, and that's where I'm going to go with you today. So the first thing a letter to shareholders should touch on is kind of just what's happening in the space. So if you and I were writing a letter to shareholders today, we would be talking about the impact of inventory shortage. We would talk about the importance of fixed operations, service and parts, and the profitability of the dealership. That would be an example, okay? Basic financial results, they're always sort of implying shareholder value. Maybe a dividend is in play with that stock. Current position in the market, that could be market share. It could be emerging markets. They have a satellite store if we're talking automotive. And then usually you'll see them talk about go forward plans, like I say, emerging products or, expansion, whatever. So that's a typical conventional letter to shareholders, right? So the opposite of that certainly would be, if we have conventional, what would unconventional look like? And so when I think of unconventional and I look at some of the letter to shareholders that I've read over the years, I think of this guy. I do. I think of Bezos, and I think of kind of what the track looked like. And I just want you to journey with me on this for a minute and then sort of parallel our industry and see where we're at today and the change that we've experienced already. So Jeff, CEO for 27 years before he stepped down, about 40,000 words in his letter to shareholders. And the principles were kind of unconventional. They kind of flew in the face of stuff that you saw Warren Buffett or somebody like Warren writing. Like, for example, one was you often saw him talk about not worrying about competition. So if you're Walmart, you're talking about Costco. Everybody's competing with somebody. If you're AutoNation, you might be competing with one of the other publicly traded automotive retailers. And so it was the opposite. It was don't worry about the competitors. Very interesting. Making the best long-term decisions for the business was constantly being hammered in his letters, early, mid, and even late. And very interesting because it kind of stepped over the near-term results that most companies would speak to. Don't sweat the short term. You often saw that type of vibe and language in his letter. But constantly it was always focus on the customers, focus on the customers. So how did that do? Well, Amazon actually got its start in the mid 90s, 94 roughly. And Jeff was an investment banker first, those that already know that. And so this company gets underway. And of course, you may remember they were selling books and music to start, right? So it was about $1.50 a share when it split in like 97, I think. And it peaked over 3,000 a share recently. I think it's a little bit less than that currently, but thereabouts. So $1.50 to 3,000, that's a great return. When you look at the chart, and you look at that chart from, say, just pre-2000 on the far left of that, all the way to the right, kind of currently, what you'll see is there's a few segments. So if I'm your investment consultant, I would say to you, hey, Ted, that money you put in this Amazon stock, I mean, the first 3-4 years, nothing. And if you look at that green line as it works its way through 2000, 2005, and then 2010, there's hardly any growth in the idea in this business of theirs. It's still below the very first line of $500 a share. It's well below that. It's below 100, in fact. But then there's a second stage after 15, 18, probably, well, at this point, it's probably about 15 years. And you got this next 5. And now it starts to climb. But it's not a Mount Everest climb. It's kind of the base of Mount Everest. You kind of work your way up. And then next 5 years, there's some growth. And it just nicks just under $500 a share. And then you have this current cycle. And it's this escalation. And it runs its way up above 3,000. And it's still hovering around 3,000. So the question is, what does this have to do with business development? What does this have to do with automotive? Well, what does this have to do with you in the organization you're part of and that you lead today? Well, I think there's a real obvious lesson to some of these letters. And what I did is I grabbed 4 rules that I saw Amazon use. And I'll be honest, I think I saw Berkshire Hathaway use some of these too at certain points in certain companies they had. So I don't know that this was exclusive to Amazon, but one talked about the competition. One talked about making decisions. One talked about gaining commitment. And then there was this universal law that when you put the 4 together, it equals progress, momentum, and growth. Very much like what we've seen with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Where this started and where it is amazing. And there were some guiding principles that led that business. So here's what you have. The first one was about competitors. And this was in a letter in 1998 to shareholders. And this is the first one I'd like to unpack for you and with you today. And here it is. I'm from the government and I'm here to encourage you. So the first one is wake up terrified. So the question is, well, I'm already doing that, some of you say. Okay, so the question is, what are we terrified about? Should we be terrified about the competition? The answer is no. That's not who we should be worried about. In fact, John Wooden used to say, when we're out there on the floor in warm-ups, don't let me ever see you looking at the other end of the floor at the other team warming up. Let them worry about us. We have a plan. We're going to execute our plan. It's their job to figure out how to stop us. So I love that. So the terrified piece isn't about the competition. It's about the one person who has all the stroke, who has all the say, who's always in complete control. And it's whom's their existence puts you and I into existence in this business. And that's our customer. Be terrified of the customer. I think a customer is loyal until what? Until someone else offers a better service, until someone else delivers a better experience. So when I think of this principle, I think of people that you and I now have mutually gotten to know through the Fixed Ops Roundtable. In February, I got a chance to spend some one-on-one time with this guy, and I walked away thoroughly impressed. And now I want to tell you something. He didn't tell me he thinks this way. But if you ask me, John, do you think this guy thinks this way? And I would say definitely. Definitely this guy thinks that way, whether he knows it or not. And his ideas and even the accolades that he's received are a result of him waking up terrified, knowing how powerful his enchantment with the customers that come in and out of his store can be. And it's none other than Ed Roberts. I mean, here you got an all-star nomination for Ed. Why? Well, the mobile van service. You know, they completely redid the store under construction. Just talking to him and listening to how they chase business, how far they'll go to do a pickup and delivery, fascinating to me. He definitely wakes up terrified every day. The question is, do you? Do I? And so to me, there's some levity in rule number one, circa 1998. Let's not worry about the competition. Let's worry about our clients. Let's worry about the customer. That's who we should be focused on. That's number one. Number two, rule of business development came from 2015. It's how to make decisions. And so I think when it comes to making decisions, everyone, I think there's two kind of doors metaphorically that you're looking at. There's the door that's kind of the one-way door, and it's like, you know, you walk through that door and there's really no coming back. I'll give you an example. We recently developed a software as a service product for BDCs. It includes the phone. It includes basically CRM for service BDCs, because we have stores that want to have a frontline support first. And so that tool is a result of our decade plus of just working in service. And it has tools and processes and simplifications that save stores money, make stores money, and show them stuff they didn't even know was happening. Okay. Well, that was a large commitment financially. When we walked through that door, there was no, oh, we'll work our way out of it if it's the wrong idea. So that decision took time. Then there are two-way doors. Two-way doors are doors that, you know, there are things you're going to try, things you're going to try to implement. I'll give you an example. Pickup and delivery for me had been around in our industry for at least what, Ted, 5 years maybe before COVID, 4 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
even longer than that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It wasn't new, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we get COVID hitting the States, and all of a sudden pickup and delivery is, you know, we're pushed off a center. Look, let me give you one closer to home here at Traver Connect. About 3.5 years before COVID, I had a desire and a vision. I saw the opportunity to have at-home agents, and I built out training sessions and learning sessions here for our leaders, and I was working to get buy-in. And I'll just say real quick, we worked at it for 3.5 years. We moved the ball a little bit, a couple first downs, but we didn't score any touchdowns. It was like, it didn't happen. COVID hit, and guess what? Now I got 60,000 square feet, and I got like 15, 20% of our workforce here. Everybody's still working at home. They love it. So, you know, it's like there are some doors that you can try, but you can always come back from if it doesn't work. Well, what am I saying? What I'm saying is, when you understand this concept, one way you can't really reverse, or the financial commitment is such that you're really not going to get out of it unless you make it work. So those are the ones you want to be slow and sure of, right? But the second one, when it comes to development decisions for your dealership, are two-way. And these you want to make with some speed. Now you say, John, what are you saying? This is super basic. I'll tell you what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, there are many organizations, many dealerships that are losing market share because they think every decision is a one-way door. They think pickup and delivery is a one-way door. Look, test it, try it, lean on people who have done it, pick up the phone and talk to people that have done it. You can always go back to hoping they'll show up. You got it? Like, this one's cheap. This one's a no-brainer. And you can do it in bite-sized amounts. But what you'll find is you're trying to win the customer ultimately. So not everything is a one-way door. That's kind of the message here. And what I would remind you of is that size doesn't really matter. Speed is what matters. And so it's the big, not so much the big that eat the small. It's more so the fast that eat the slow. right? So you want to have some speed. So make sure when you're tabling ideas in your dealership, in your organization, you're separating one-way door decisions from two-way door decisions. Make sense? All right. The third is disagree and commit. This is 2016 circa. And in that letter, it was really interesting to me because they were going under a lot of change and they had created a lot of new products, Amazon Web and Alexa and, Prime, and they had all this stuff. And so obviously when you get together, you're going to disagree on some stuff. How many of you guys can relate to that in your own organization where you say, gosh, we have this initiative, this idea, but I can't get everybody bought into it. Even I've just disclosed to you an example here at Traver where we kind of journey through that. And so what I'm saying to you is this, again, speed is important. So when you have decisions that got to be made without you kind of having that consensus, there's a great way that they handled it. And I'm almost reciting it to you here. And it's like this, they would just say, look, Ted, I realize we disagree on this. So can I ask you, will you gamble with me on this one?
Okay.
And then can we disagree, but commit? Let's go commit and let's see if we can't make this work. Because if we make it work, we both agree on what the outcome could be, and off and away you go. So it's a way of getting people off center. I love disagree and commit. It's my way of acknowledging that somebody else has a different opinion. It'll get you to yes. And if it had a hashtag, I would call it decisions made by exhaustion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh my gosh. So this is how you get off of that, where you're not exhausted and you say, look, I'm gonna play the disagree and commit card and just acknowledge that you disagree, ask for the gamble, and ask for the commitment. So to me, I love it. It allows you as an organization to stay fast. So whether that's a mobile van service, whether that's pickup and delivery, whether that's centralizing your calls for service, whether that's time mileage recommendations in the call so you offset the cost of your BDC completely, whether it's updating records as those calls are coming in. I mean, these are ways that you can implement change quickly, okay? So remember, it's the fast that eat, everybody, the slow, right? So the fourth one is life's universal law. And this was 2020. It was the last year prior to the sign-off letter. And, this is the principle. You got to create more than you consume. If you want to be successful, you have to create more than you consume. So, that just makes sense. It just makes sense and it feels right. So I think the goal and the key here is creating value with everyone. I don't care if it's your landscaper. I don't care if it's your chief whatever officer. I don't care if it's head cook, bottle washer. It's creating value with every interaction you have. And I think, it starts with our customers, everyone. It starts and ends there. All right. So I would just say, don't, test me on this one, right? Watch it work. Look to create more value than you consume. And as it compounds, it's a mind blower. So the four were wake up terrified. Is it a one-way or a two-way door? When you have decisions, you got the old, we disagree. I'm going to ask you to gamble with me. Let's decide and commit. And then we got to create more than we consume. So the last letter that Bezos wrote was April 15th, 2021, about a year ago. I mean, we're sitting here in May 2022. And this is what it said. Just a couple things. I want to see, now that we looked at that chart and we saw the long, flat green line and a little bit of a bump, and then all of a sudden it climbs Mount Everest, what do we see? We saw a few things. He said in Amazon's 1997 letter to shareholders, our very first, I talked about our hope to create an enduring franchise. Question, how did they do? Pretty good so far. One that would reinvent what it means to serve customers. Interesting, big claim, but he even says how? By unlocking the internet's power. Personally, on Traver, I love that. I love that because it's not fluff. There's actually a statement on how we're going to do that. What's our lever? There's a lever. We're going to leverage the internet. he said, I noted that Amazon had grown. Look at this is like proud papa here, right? Had grown from having 158 employees to 614. Guys, gals, that's 4 times the number. And we had surpassed 1.5 million customer accounts. We had just gone public, split it an adjusted stock price of $1.50. And I wrote that it was day one. At Amazon, every day is day one. At your place, every day is day one. What is day one? Day one is that day where you feel like, you know what? The boundaries are limitless. We can do it. The creativity is high. The belief is high. The willingness to fail and get back up anyway is high. That's every day. And so that was pretty cool. Then he said, we've come a long way since then. We're working harder than ever to serve and delight customers. There it is again, our purpose. Last year, we hired 500,000 employees. He just got done talking about 158 to 614. Last year, we hired 500,000 employees, and now I'm directly employed. Yeah, it is a while. 1.3 million people around the world. We have more than 200 million Prime members. What is that a year, Ted, now? $120 or something?
Yep.
Right?
Keeps going up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So for every $10 bump they have in that, times multiply that by 200 million, that's net, right?
Yep.
Before you buy anything. So more than 1.9 million small and medium-sized businesses sell in our store, and they make up close to 60% of our retail sales. Remember, Amazon doesn't make the product.
Right.
They're just it is like eBay on steroids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So, yes. So customers have connected. Here's the other one. More than 100 million smart home devices to Alexa. So for those of you that enjoy Alexa at home, that's cool. There you go. There's 100 million people using that. So let me finish up with this. Amazon Web Services serves millions of customers and ended 2020 with 50 billion annualized run rate. What that means, for those who don't know what run rate is it's the revenue per year by that business. So it's cranking out 50 million a year, and it's growing, just so you know. So businesses,
billion, 50 billion.
Billions. Did I say million?
Yes, I just wanted to call that to everyone's attention.
Thank you. Million, billion, So in 97, he said, here's the kicker. We hadn't invented Prime. In 97, we hadn't invented Marketplace. In 97, we hadn't invented Alexa. And in 97, we hadn't invented Amazon Web Service. What haven't you invented yet? What haven't you invented yet? Think about that. He says they weren't even ideas then. None of them was preordained. They took a great risk, sweat equity, ingenuity, etc. So this excerpt of that last letter is what I'm sharing with you today under the principles of business development. If you take those 4 principles I talked about today, you can grow any business. In fact, if you said, John, give me one guaranteed to grow my business, I'll give it to you. And it's straight from the gut. It's not from Amazon. And it's this. The easiest way I know to grow a business is to grow the people in it. That's the easiest way I know to grow a business. In fact, I don't know if you can grow a business unless you grow the people in it. I think it starts there, and then all those other things are added to it. So those principles compounded over time, game changers. And so here at Traver, we're going to continue to do what we always do. We're going to develop solutions that help dealers catch the calls, whether that's software as a service, whether that's outsource, whether that's making dials, whether that's training, whether that's consulting and guiding them as they build out tools and efforts to retain their customers and to load their shop. Hey, Ted, it's always our pleasure to share with you and the audience here at Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thanks again.
John, very bold, very powerful, very potent. And what a way to kick off our session today. Great perspective and looking back at some of the best business people in the world and the foresight they had. And you're right, in our own lives, look at how much we have not even conceived yet, let alone be invented, right? And things that we can do. So,
yeah, no, I feel the same sentiment, Ted. And what's possible by this group, by this audience, I'm not sure it's measurable today. So I would say stay on the course. Let's keep going.
And I think a big part of that message we just heard was that it's the people. All right. So I am so glad that you're focused on the people, as we all need to be. John Traver, everybody, is the CEO of Traver Connect. John, if our audience wants to reach out to you and Traver Connect, what's the best way to do that?
Right here, traverconnect.com or 855-891-0010. Give us a call. We're here to listen. If we can't help you directly, we'll get you pointed in the right direction, but usually we can help.
Yep. You all know it. Everyone, John Traver from Traver Connect here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted.